For the next freedom of speech, a dialogue, Arshia Sattar, Liang, Omair Ahmad and others discuss what freedoms of speech and expressions mean to them and to the society as a whole. Can we please have them on stage?
Time, so you keep it short. Yeah? So I think that's a very auspicious beginning. My wonderful fellow panelist, Liang, who keeps the world safe. And I mean that quite literally for people like myself. Many of the freedoms that we take so much for granted are actually protected by Lawrence and his colleagues. It's always a privilege to be with Lawrence on a panel. My new friend Omair, who has, in an incredible gesture, also a writer, an award-winning writer, Jimmy the Terrorist, The Storyteller's Tale. But in the news currently for an amazing gesture. He wrote to his publisher Penguin after Penguin had taken the decision to pulp Wendy Donegal's books. He says, you know what, you can pulp my book too, take it back. I'm particularly admiring of that gesture because it's something that I didn't have the courage to do. So we are here to talk about what happens when freedom of speech is curtailed in any way. I also want to say that for Lawrence and I'm assuming hopefully also for Omair, this is an ongoing process. We're going to try and get time at various literary events across the country this year and next year, and ask organizers to give us just a little bit of time to bring these issues before a public that may not know what exactly is at stake when we say it's okay to restrict the freedom of speech. For me, most importantly, when the freedom of speech is restricted, what you're actually doing also is not allowing people to develop the capacity to think independently, which is more dangerous perhaps than anything else. And in another way also, you're not making it possible for people to question the things that make them uncomfortable, whatever those things are. I'm going to ask Lawrence to give us his legal eagle view of what's possible, what is not possible, what we can do, what we can't.
I can understand. You are going to win that case, so why aren't you doing this? The second question is a difficult one, because it really becomes one about either taking a principled stand or taking a contextual stand, right? I'm generally in favor of contextual ethics because I don't believe in universal principles, but in this case, in the case of free speech, you have to look at what the normative grounds for your believing in free speech are. It could be a democracy argument, it could be a truth argument, it could be an autonomy argument, and it could be a watchdog argument. If you are going to take a stand which is based on a normative principle, then it only makes logical sense for you to be consistent within that normative universe. And to my mind, Navyana demonstrated in some ways an inconsistency which also is a kind of a political opportunism at its worst or political naivety at its best, right? So this is my problem. In the case of a Penguin, of course, you're much more unforgiving because they have the resources to fight the battle. I can understand a small publisher being cowed down. The legal system is not the most friendly system in the world to get kind of stuck in, right? It sucks up your creativity more than anything else. Which is also why the larger question that Arshia raised of what is the movement in India? You have consolidated battles, you've had the filmmakers, especially documentary filmmakers, who have led in some ways the most consistent battle on censorship. But is there a consolidated equivalent of, let's say, the pen movement in the Indian context? Unfortunately, not yet.
Yeah. The young
We just
lady in the
have time
front,
for
please.
one last question.
About Penn Delhi, I know is definitely starting up and they're looking at. But the question that I had for you, Lawrence, is I have also been on the receiving end of, like, you know, a potential FIR because one of the stories in the erotica anthology that I'm working, that I'm editing was published in Mint, and it was suddenly one day we found out that there was an FIR filed against us. And I think it was a really scary moment for me, especially because the FIR was filed in Bombay. I have roots in Bombay. And at that time, as a writer, I felt very alone. You know, you feel very alone. You don't have the resources to fight any of this. I can give you another instance. As an art writer, very periodically, I have had to write about shows that have got cancelled because of protest letters from, wings of the RSS and things like that. The most stunning instance was a gay artist who had been attacked at the Lalit Kala Academy once, literally attacked and his painting vandalized. He has a show in Hyderabad. He has a very successful opening. The next day he goes, his work has been taken down, and he is told to just get out of there, and he is scared. He calls up people in Delhi and he's crying. He doesn't know what to do. So I'm talking about what happens to creative people like me and him and so many others. What are the kind of we don't have the resources to fight court cases. Are there any solutions? Is there any respite?
Right now there's nothing. And there won't be anything until writers and artists who are actually committed to this pool their resources. Because as much as I'm angry with Penguin or Aleph, I also realize that they are responding to market forces. Right? This is how much money, this is whatever. There is no group of writers or artists who have had the courage of their convictions to pool their resources or create a network. Yes, I realize that Pen...
But you must not forget that Sehmat has existed in Delhi for many, many years, and
Sehmat has existed.
But Sehmat is but it is still important.
Yeah. It's much, but this is specifically to do with arts and culture. There has, let me be a little blunt. I find it incredibly hypocritical that Amartya Sen, who's published a book called The Idea of Justice, which is published by Penguin, has nothing to say about this. I find it incredibly hypocritical that Gurcharan Das, who talks about the difficulty of being good, acts on that particular thing. What is this? These are big names who talk about public morality every single day. I find it incredibly offensive that a nobody like me has to withdraw their books, and these people can sit on their butts and do nothing except earn the royalties on their income. It is offensive to me that the writing and arts community does not do anything to protect itself. Nothing will exist unless we do something about it.
Lawrence, please.
Just on the legal question on this, there is in fact a lot of statements by the Supreme Court which says that if you have the right under Article 19(1)(a) to have your freedom of speech and expression, and as long as it's not proscribed by 19(2), the state is obliged to protect you, right? Unfortunately, this is not executed, but we need to think about how we actualize this. What we have is the split imagination where you have a lot of the criminal procedure looking at restrictions, but you don't have the creative imagination legally yet to look at what it means to proactively protect someone exercising their freedom of speech and expression. Right? So, I mean, Omair had talked about blasphemy, and there's a lovely little quote by Eliot when he says that genuine blasphemy is a product of a partial faith. It is as unavailable to the absolute Christian as it is to the absolute atheist. And I think in some ways, as people in the art world and in the world of letters, we are implicated as people who have a stake in this because of the fact that we are genuinely love and equally hate, forms of language. So I think that this has to be a much broader movement, and I think this is the start of the conversation.
I'm going to end there because I think actually we've ended on a note of hope. I think Omair has pushed us into saying, yes, we do need to form a community. And I think Lawrence has also made it very clear that this is possible, that the law can be amended, that there is low-hanging fruit, right? And please, do what you can to protect yourselves and to protect each other so that there can be Litmus next year with the same cast of characters, that some of us are not in prison for what we've said tonight or may say in the coming months. Thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you.